Watch what unfolds when a ruler walks away from his throne for just a month. The empire doesn't crumble. Instead, something far more curious takes place. Whispers begin to travel through corridors. His name starts echoing in every room, every conversation. His absence becomes the loudest presence in the entire kingdom. Now compare him to the ruler who never leaves his seat, always visible, always available, responding to every call. The more he is seen, the less he is noticed. His presence becomes ordinary, expected, almost invisible. This is the strange paradox of influence that Machiavelli understood long ago. The more you expose yourself, the less weight your existence carries. Constant visibility breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds disregard. Strategic disappearance, however, creates mystery, and mystery commands respect. You believe being seen makes you important. It doesn't. It makes you predictable, expected, easy to overlook. But when you withdraw, the world is forced to remember you. They begin to wonder where you are, what you're doing, whether they took your presence for granted. Machiavelli once observed that people value most the things that are scarce, not the things always within reach. The truth is, you've been playing the game of life backwards. You thought being accessible made you respected, that being ever-present made you matter. But it did the opposite, it diluted your worth. When you disappear, something fundamental shifts. The human mind recalculates your value. What was once taken for granted becomes precious again. Scarcity always multiplies worth. It's the one law of power that never expires. Drop this truth into your mind: absence creates power. Modern society is a trap built to keep you constantly visible, posting, replying, reacting, always present, always connected. Why? Because people who are always visible are the easiest to control. Predictable people are powerless people. They move when told, think when told, react when provoked, convinced their endless participation gives them meaning. It doesn't. It makes them forgettable. The law is simple: availability destroys value. Scarcity builds it. This rule applies to everything, from relationships to status, from leadership to influence. When you're everywhere, you're nowhere. When you're always talking, no one listens. When you're always available, you become a tool people use without thought. But when you learn to vanish with intent, when your absence carries weight, you stop being a tool and start being a presence. You remind the world that access to you must be earned. Most people fear disappearance. They think stepping away makes them irrelevant. They're wrong. Strategic withdrawal is the purest form of dominance, a quiet power that bends attention toward you without a single word. What follows are 7 Machiavellian laws of disappearance, principles that transform absence into reverence, that separate those who are used from those who hold power. Because only when you vanish does the world finally realize how much you mattered. Number 1. The power of withdrawal. There's a quiet kind of panic that begins the moment someone realizes they no longer have access to you. It's not loud or obvious at first, it creeps in slowly. They check their phone more than usual, reread old messages, wonder why you haven't replied. They start questioning what changed, what they did wrong. Without saying a single word, you've disturbed their sense of control. You see, the human mind despises uncertainty. It craves completion. It hates broken patterns and unanswered questions. When you were constantly available, you became predictable, your responses were guaranteed, your energy easy to reach. But once that pattern breaks, the mind spirals. It begins to obsess, not over what it has, but over what it's lost. That's the secret behind withdrawal. It doesn't erase you from people's memory, it engraves you deeper into it. Absence doesn't make them forget you. It makes you the one thing they can't stop thinking about. You were never more present than when you were gone. Machiavelli once said that the intelligence of a ruler can be measured by the quality of those around him. Hidden inside that wisdom is another truth. Intelligent rulers know when not to be seen. They understand that constant exposure weakens authority, while strategic distance amplifies it. Look at history's most powerful figures, kings, leaders, visionaries. None of them were easy to reach. Their time was sacred. Their presence, rare. To be granted access to them felt like winning something valuable. That rarity built reverence. Most people today do the opposite. They make themselves endlessly reachable. They drop everything to respond, to please, to be available. And in doing so, they dilute their presence. They become a habit, not a privilege. Familiarity kills fascination. When you step back, you introduce doubt into the system. People start to wonder if they've misjudged you, if perhaps your time has more weight than they realized. Maybe you have boundaries they never saw before. Maybe they overestimated their access. That discomfort is powerful. It forces a recalibration of value. When you're constantly present, you become part of the background, furniture that everyone expects to be there. But absence shakes the illusion of permanence. It reminds the world that your presence isn't guaranteed, that you choose to appear, and you can choose to disappear. Silent withdrawal is a language of power. It communicates what words never can, that you no longer play by the same rules, that access to you now comes with a cost. People will try to decode the change, replay conversations, overanalyze details, check your online activity, trying to figure out what went wrong. All that mental energy becomes orbit around you, and you're not even there. That's the paradox. You gain influence in your absence. You dominate the space you've left behind. So remember this truth: you are most visible when you are unseen. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Silence shatters illusions. Number 2, the illusion of constant availability. From the moment you were a child, you were trained to believe that being reachable equals being good. Be there when someone calls. Show up when you're needed. Always help when asked. Those words sounded noble, but they carried a hidden curse, a slow conditioning to forget yourself. Constant availability isn't kindness. It's quiet self-destruction. It teaches people that your time has no price, that your energy is endless, that you exist to serve anyone who demands your attention. Society rewards this behavior with polite praise, but underneath it, they see you as easy to use. Every time you say yes when your body begs for a no, you chip away at your worth. Every time you drop everything to please someone else, you tell the world your life is negotiable. Every instant reply, every rushed favor, every moment you abandon yourself to meet another's expectation, it all trains people to see you as accessible, not valuable. Machiavelli once wrote that men are easily deceived when their immediate needs are met. That deception still exists today. They made you believe that saying yes makes you important. It doesn't. It makes you convenient. And convenience is never respected. Understand this distinction: useful people get used, valuable people get valued. When you are always available, you're seen as a tool, something to pick up when needed and set down when done. Nobody admires a tool, they only depend on it. When you become less accessible, however, When you stop responding to every message, when you no longer rearrange your world to suit others, everything changes. Your time gains gravity. People start thinking before they reach for it. You no longer orbit their demands, they begin orbiting your boundaries. This shift doesn't happen because you declare it. It happens because you live it. You stop being everyone's emergency exit. You start protecting your time like it's gold, because it is. Here's what no one tells you about always saying yes. It doesn't make people appreciate you. It makes them assume you'll always comply. The more you give, the less they notice. The more available you are, the more invisible you become. Because deep down, everyone knows, people who never say no don't value themselves. You believed that being available made you loved. It only made you replaceable. True importance comes from limitation. The people who are hardest to reach, who guard their hours, who make access to their attention a privilege, they radiate authority. Scarcity isn't arrogance. It's self-respect made visible. Every rushed reply, every moment you sacrifice rest for someone else's urgency, every time you put others first without discernment, those aren't acts of virtue. They're acts of self-abandonment. And no one respects a person who doesn't respect their own limits. When you start protecting your space, something interesting happens. People get irritated. They'll call you selfish, distant, or changed. That's fine. You're meant to change. You're meant to evolve from someone who's endlessly reachable to someone who's intentionally selective. Breaking free from constant availability feels uncomfortable at first. Guilt whispers that you're letting others down. But that discomfort is just the echo of your old conditioning dying. Because the alternative is far worse, living your whole life responding to everyone else's needs while your own dreams wither in silence. You can't keep saving everyone and expect to save yourself. Remember this, every yes given without thought is a no to your own peace. The world doesn't need you on demand. It needs you at your best, and that requires space, silence, and sovereignty over your time. Drop this truth in the comments. Saying no is not rejection, it's self-preservation. Number 3, persona versus individuation. There are two versions of you walking through this world. The first is the mask, the carefully constructed image you wear so others will accept you. It smiles at the right moments, speaks when it's supposed to, follows the invisible script society wrote long before you were born. This version survives by fitting in, by being agreeable, by doing what's expected. But it's not you. It's the performance of you. Beneath that mask lives the real self, raw, unfiltered, unshaped by public opinion. This is the version you buried the moment you learned that authenticity can be punished. You hid it away because being genuine often invites rejection, criticism, and isolation. And over time, the performance became so convincing that you forgot it was an act. Psychologists call the process of reclaiming your true self individuation, the transformation from the false self to the authentic one. It's the moment you stop performing and start existing. But that rebirth demands one thing most people fear more than failure: disappearance. Machiavelli once observed that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience who you truly are. He understood that every person needs a persona to navigate society, but he also knew that when a mask becomes your identity, you lose your freedom. Because when you live for appearances, you surrender your power to the gaze of others. The longer you perform for approval, the more you become addicted to it. You start measuring your worth by reactions, likes, praise, attention. Your life stops being self-directed and becomes audience-driven. Every move you make is filtered through one question: will they like me for this? That's not self-expression. That's slavery in disguise. The path to individuation begins when you disappear, not from the world, but from its expectations. When you stop needing to be understood, stop trying to fit in, stop performing roles that don't reflect who you really are. In that withdrawal, the mask begins to crack. And what's underneath is uncomfortable at first, wild, honest, unpredictable. But it's also real. Solitude is where this transformation happens. When you step away from noise and validation, you meet the version of yourself that doesn't need to impress anyone. The version that doesn't soften its edges to fit in. The one that's been silenced for years. That self is powerful because it doesn't seek control through conformity. It finds freedom through authenticity. Understand this: the system you live in thrives on masks. It depends on predictability. It rewards people who play safe, who smile on command, who suppress rebellion in the name of belonging. The moment you stop playing, you become unpredictable, and that terrifies them. Because someone who no longer fears rejection is uncontrollable. That's why individuation is so rare. Most people will never attempt it. They'll spend their entire lives refining their persona, polishing the mask, making it more believable, hoping that one day it'll feel like truth. But it never will. The mask is designed to make you acceptable, not fulfilled. When you vanish from the performance, when you step off the stage and into your own solitude, the question emerges: who am I when no one's watching? Most can't handle that silence. They rush back to noise, back to validation, back to the safety of being someone they're not. But if you can face that silence, if you can endure the discomfort of not knowing who you are for a while, something extraordinary happens. You begin to create yourself consciously. You stop being a reflection and become a source. You stop reacting to the world and begin shaping your own. When you return to society after finding yourself, people will notice it instantly. They won't know what changed, but they'll feel it. Your energy will no longer ask for approval. Your presence will no longer seek permission. You'll move through the world as someone who doesn't need to fit in, because you've already found where you belong, within yourself. Drop this truth in the comments: I am not here to be controlled. I am here to be complete. Number 4, psychic energy and manipulation. Every reaction you give is a transfer of power. Every argument, every explanation, every emotional defense, it all costs energy. And the moment you react, that energy no longer belongs to you. You've handed it to someone else. That's the foundation of manipulation. A manipulator doesn't need to be right, they only need to make you respond. Because once they control your reaction, they control your direction. You become predictable, programmable, and emotionally exposed. Most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're standing up for themselves, proving a point, setting the record straight. But what they're really doing is dancing to a tune someone else is playing. The manipulator doesn't care about the truth. They care about your reaction. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must be both fox and lion, cunning enough to recognize traps, and strong enough to crush wolves. The fox sees the trap before it closes. The lion doesn't waste energy struggling once he's caught. He simply refuses to step into it in the first place. The real trap is not the situation, it's your emotional investment in it. Manipulators are energy thieves. They live off your outrage, your need to defend yourself, your hunger to be understood. Every time you argue, explain, or justify, you're feeding them. They're not hungry for resolution. They're starving for reaction. That's why silence destroys them. Silence is not weakness, it's rejection. Refusal. It says, you do not have access to my energy. The moment you stop reacting, the game collapses. They'll try to provoke you harder. They'll insult, twist words, fabricate stories, anything to make you speak. Why? Because silence starves them. But you must train yourself to stay calm when everything inside you screams to respond. When they lie, when they misrepresent you, when they try to pull you into their storm, stay still. The ego wants to fight. The ego wants to prove. But remember, every defense is an admission that you need their understanding. And that's how you lose power. Manipulators thrive on your need for fairness. They weaponize your decency. When you defend yourself, you signal that their opinion matters, that they have the authority to judge you. But once you understand that their validation means nothing, your silence becomes the sharpest weapon you have. When you withhold your energy, manipulators unravel. Their entire existence depends on emotional control. If they can't pull a reaction from you, they lose their sense of dominance. You'll see them grow louder, more desperate, more aggressive. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, unkind. Don't fall for it. That's the sound of their hunger. There's a kind of mastery that comes from choosing peace over participation. When you no longer allow someone else's chaos to rewrite your emotional state, you become untouchable. The energy you conserve in silence is energy you can redirect toward your goals, your growth, your empire. Manipulators don't just steal moments, they steal years from people who can't stop reacting. Entire lives get drained through endless cycles of defending, proving, and explaining. You break the cycle the moment you recognize it for what it is, a trap disguised as dialogue. You don't win by fighting harder. You win by not playing. Every time you choose calm over conflict, silence over reaction, observation over participation, you reclaim sovereignty over your own mind. That's real power. Not over others, over yourself. Drop this truth in the comments. My silence starves manipulation. Number 5. The power of silence. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forces in human interaction. People mistake it for emptiness, weakness, or absence. But silence isn't the absence of power, it's power concentrated. It's control in its purest form. Words, when used carelessly, scatter your influence. They reveal too much, your intentions, your emotions, your vulnerabilities. Every unnecessary word gives others something to interpret, twist, or use. Silence gives them nothing. And in that nothing, people reveal everything. Observe what happens when you stop speaking. When you stop filling every pause, when you let space exist without trying to ease the tension, people get uncomfortable. They start projecting. They fill the silence with their own guilt, their own fear, their own stories. Silence becomes a mirror, it reflects them, not you. Machiavelli once said that it's safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But silence, when used wisely, creates both. People fear what they cannot read and are drawn to what they cannot fully understand. Silence makes you unreadable. And mystery is the foundation of power. Understand this, silence is not passivity. It's strategy. It's the decision to speak only when speaking serves your purpose. When you hold your words, you control the frame. You decide when the game begins and when it ends. Those who talk endlessly in meetings, and debates, and life, they dilute themselves. Their constant noise makes them forgettable. But the person who waits, listens, and then speaks once, that voice carries weight. Scarcity makes words valuable. Silence also creates psychological distance. It forces others to deal with their own thoughts, their own discomfort. You don't rush to explain yourself, to correct misunderstandings, or to beg for clarity. You simply let them sit in the uncertainty. And in that space, they reveal more about who they are than you ever could by speaking. The world worships communication. We need to talk, they say, as if talking fixes everything. But sometimes, words don't heal, they expose. Sometimes, explanation weakens your position. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. Silence is also armor. Every sentence you speak becomes data, information people can weaponize. Your opinions can be attacked. Your emotions can be exploited. Your reasoning can be twisted. But silence? Silence cannot be misquoted. People who rely on control through conversation will accuse you of being distant or manipulative when you choose silence. Let them. Their discomfort is proof of your power. Because secure people don't demand explanations. Only those who need to dominate fear quiet. Silence breaks their illusion of control. It exposes how much they depended on your constant participation to feel in charge. When you stop engaging, their strategies collapse. They're left arguing with the void, and no one ever wins against silence. This is power without aggression. Dominance without confrontation. Influence without conflict. Machiavelli would have understood it perfectly. Power is not always in the voice that speaks, it's often in the one that chooses not to. Drop this truth in the comments. My silence is my strongest language. Number 6. Conscious unavailability. There's a phrase that sounds noble but secretly destroys boundaries. I'm always here if you need me. It seems kind, selfless, even virtuous, but it's actually one of the fastest ways to drain your worth. Because being endlessly available doesn't make you valuable. It makes you a utility, something to be used, not appreciated. This is where most people lose their sense of power. They confuse accessibility with importance. They believe that constant presence equals loyalty, that being reachable makes them respected. But in both economics and psychology, one truth never changes: scarcity creates value. Anything that's everywhere loses its meaning. Anything that's hard to access becomes precious. The same applies to you. Your time, your energy, your attention, when they are unlimited, they lose their worth. When they are selective, they command respect. Conscious unavailability is the art of making yourself rare with intention. It's not avoidance or arrogance, it's discipline. It's the deliberate choice to protect your time instead of letting everyone claim it. Machiavelli advised rulers to avoid appearing too common. He understood that familiarity dissolves authority. The prince who mingles too often with the crowd becomes part of the crowd. His image loses its edge. The same rule governs every form of influence. When you're always there, you stop being noticed. Each time you answer immediately, each time you drop everything for someone else, you train people to treat your attention as endless. Soon, they stop seeing your help as generosity and start expecting it as routine. Your kindness becomes an entitlement. Watch what happens when you finally say no, or when you don't respond right away. Some will react with anger. They'll feel betrayed, confused, even offended. Why? Because they mistook your past generosity for permanent access. Conscious unavailability shatters that illusion. It reminds people that access to you must be earned, not assumed. It forces them to ask themselves, is what I'm requesting really worth their time? It filters your connections naturally. Those who only valued your availability will drift away. Those who respect your boundaries will stay. And those are the only people worth keeping. Being unavailable doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've learned that your energy is not infinite. You cannot build your own life while constantly holding up everyone else's. Every yes to others is a no to yourself. Every time you ignore your limits, you sacrifice your peace for someone else's comfort. This isn't selfishness. This is self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of all true power. When you start practicing conscious unavailability, your relationships transform. People approach you differently. They become more mindful, more appreciative, more intentional. They stop wasting your time because they know it's not guaranteed. Even your work and creativity begin to thrive. Because the less energy you waste pleasing others, the more you have to invest in your purpose. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. Of course, this change won't please everyone. Some will label you distant or arrogant. Let them. Those who call you selfish for protecting your peace were the ones benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Their discomfort is proof that your limits are working. Remember this, not everyone deserves your time. Not every call deserves an answer. Not every problem deserves your energy. You teach people how to treat you by how often you let them interrupt your peace. When your presence becomes rare, your value multiplies. When your time becomes protected, your influence grows. Because scarcity doesn't just create desire, it creates respect. Drop this truth in the comments. Access to me is a privilege, not a right. Number 7. Rebirth through solitude. Solitude scares most people, not because it hurts but because it reveals. When you are alone, with no noise, no messages, and no distractions, you come face to face with the person you have been avoiding all along, yourself. You start to see the thoughts you kept buried and the truth you tried not to face. You realize the gap between who you became and who you were meant to be. Most people cannot handle that realization. They keep themselves busy with noise, with screens, with conversations. They call it connection, but it is really escape. Because silence is a mirror, and mirrors do not lie. But solitude is not punishment. It is purification. Every quiet moment removes what is false. The social conditioning, the roles you play, the expectations you borrowed. What remains after everything burns away is what is real. Machiavelli once said that men act from love or from fear. But there is another force he understood, the desire for authenticity. The need to become who you truly are instead of who the world wants you to be. That transformation only happens in solitude. Society reflects a version of you that fits its comfort. It rewards the version that does not disturb the system. But in solitude, that reflection disappears. You begin to define yourself without anyone else's opinion. That process is painful. Most people give up quickly, telling themselves that solitude is unhealthy. It is not unhealthy. It is uncomfortable, and that discomfort is the test. Real solitude is not being physically alone. It is being detached from the need for validation. This is the loneliness of the strong. It is the choice to walk away from the crowd. To think in ways no one else dares. To create a life that is your own. People will not understand you. They will say you have changed, that you have become distant or cold. They are right. You have changed. You buried the version of yourself that lived for approval, so that the real you could finally exist. Solitude is the fire and you are the metal. What comes out of that fire is stronger and clearer. But the process is not easy. You will question your decisions and doubt your direction. You will feel the pull to go back. Do not. During this time you will lose people. Those who liked the old version of you. Those who fed on your constant availability. Let them go. They belong to your past. The people who stay, or the new ones who find you later, are different. They do not want your energy, they value your presence. Because now your presence means something. You no longer give it to everyone. This is rebirth, not a metaphor but a real transformation. The self that returns from solitude is not the same one that left. It is calmer, wiser, and free from the need for approval. It trusts its own mind. It cannot be broken because it has already been rebuilt. That is what Machiavelli meant by the lion and the fox. Strength balanced by strategy, courage shaped by intelligence. Solitude gives you both. When you return to the world, people notice it instantly. You no longer chase or explain. You simply exist with quiet authority. And everyone knows you can disappear whenever you want. That makes your presence valuable, your time respected, your attention rare. You have completed the transformation. You have become the one who shapes the world instead of reacting to it. And it all started when you had the courage to disappear. Now we reach the truth that holds everything together. You have learned 7 principles, 7 understandings that separate those who are used from those who hold power. These are not abstract theories, they are patterns that rule every part of human behavior. Yet most people will never follow them. They will choose comfort instead of clarity. They will prefer to be liked rather than respected. They will cling to connection instead of solitude. They will stay trapped in visibility, believing that being seen equals being valued. They will give their energy to everyone who asks, then wonder why no one ever values it. They will keep repeating the same cycle. Always available. Always explaining. Always trying to prove their worth. They will keep wondering why people take advantage of them. Why respect never matches effort. Why their presence feels invisible no matter how much they give. The answer is simple. They made themselves too common. But you are different, or at least you can be. You now hold the knowledge that changes how the world sees you. You understand that absence creates worth, that withdrawal builds respect. That protecting your time is the highest form of self-respect. Yet knowledge means nothing without movement. It is not enough to understand the principle, you must live it. And that begins with a single act of courage. Disappear. Not forever, not dramatically, but strategically. Step back from the noise. Stop explaining yourself to those who will never understand. Stop spending your energy on situations that do not deserve it. Stop being visible to people who do not see your value. Pull your energy inward. Stay quiet. Protect your focus as if it were the rarest thing you own, because it is. Then watch carefully what happens next. Some people will panic when they cannot reach you. Some will grow frustrated or even angry. Some will fade away completely. Let them. They were never meant for the version of you that is being created now. The ones who remain, the ones who respect the distance. The ones who value your time enough to earn it. They are your people. Everyone else was only attached to the older version of you. The one who never said no, who explained too much, who lived to be understood instead of powerful. That version is gone now. It has served its purpose. What remains is someone entirely new. Someone who is harder to reach and impossible to manipulate. Someone who understands that true power comes from selectivity, not visibility. Someone who knows that presence becomes meaningful only when it is rare. This new version of you will not be celebrated by everyone. The world prefers obedience over independence. It praises those who stay easy to access and quick to please. But the world also quietly fears those who learn to disappear. Because the person who can step away at will is the one who holds all the power.